Parashat Pinchas is 168. Almost done. Almost done. When you're done, you know what happens when you're done? You just go right back to the beginning.
It's even better.
Like somebody once said, when you could only start learning Talmud Bavli after you've completed learning Talmud Bavli. And it's true. It's true. And not only that, I always tell people when it comes to Gemara learning that, sometimes people try to learn rules. I'm sorry, John, let me have that red chumash over. That's mine. Yeah. Sometimes people try to learn the rules before they start learning Gemara, learn the rules of how Gemara works. I tell people it doesn't work that way. It's like learning to play a new board game. When you learn to play a new board game, you read the rules instructions. The rules are almost, you don't know, let's just start playing. And then you start playing. What happens over here? You lose a turn. What happens over here? And then once you know the game, then you teach it to somebody else. Then also, just play. Right, well, what happens here? Well, here you owe me. You have to pay me $5,000. Well, I didn't know that. Now you know. And nothing like learning. Remember I told you the guy's making a list. His friend says to him, "Hey, Bob, what are you doing?" He said, "I'm making a list of everything I've learned in life." He says, "So why do you have two lists?" He says, "Well, the short list is the things that I've learned. The long list is the things I've learned the hard way." Right? And so if you learn the hard way, that's, and the Gemara even says a person does not get halacha clear until he stumbled on it. That means I know the halacha. I know the halachas, and generally I do okay. Every once in a while, let's say I forget Yala V'Yavo. Now what do? Well, it's Rosh Chodesh, you got to say it again. It's benching, you don't have to say it again. When does it stick? It sticks when you got punished by it. Oh yeah, I forgot Yala V'Yavo. Yeah, you got to say the whole Shemona Esrei again. Oh man, that's not going to happen again. Oh, so when you just go through it, it's like anything in life. You go through it. I know basically what the rules are. But when you're learning Gemara, Gesundheit, when you're learning Gemara, it's very much like, what's a Gzeira Shava? I never heard of a Gzeira Shava. Well, Gzeira Shava, where there are two words, and from one word to another word, then you can learn halachas that one apply to the other. If you would have read that in advance, it doesn't mean as much to you. If as you're experiencing it, then it's got some teeth, and then you never forget it. Okay, now, Parshas V'eschana, page 958. V'eschana el Hashem ba'isa lemor. I davened to Hashem at that time, saying the following. This is where Moshe Rabbeinu is speaking to the Jewish people, and he's telling them they got to the outset of what's it called? The outset, not the outskirts. Thank you. I got to the outskirts of the land of Israel, and I wanted to go into Israel. We actually had a guy here at Ohr Somayach. It was a Talmud of ours here, a very close, very good guy. Today he's very involved in Jewish outreach. He's a rabbi in Denver. He got to Ohr Somayach, no Jewish background whatsoever, no religious background. He was traveling the world, and he was on the hills of Jordan. And he had no plans to come to Israel. And he was on the hills, he was in the Jordanian hills looking into Israel, looking into the land of Israel. And he thought that he remembered from Hebrew school when he was a little kid being taught that Moses stood on the mountain, looked into the land, but wasn't allowed to go in. And he thought to himself, heck, I'm looking in, he wasn't allowed to go in, I'm going in, right? I never left. He ended up at Ohr Somayach, he can't wait to go. So that's how he got, that's why he came in. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, I pleaded with Hashem at that time as follows. And now he goes on to tell you what he pleaded with Hashem. But you see, we have to see Rashi here. The very first Rashi says, Ve'eschanan, ein chanun b'kol makom eloloshon matnas chinam. The word eschanan, the root of the word, is chinam. Chinam means free. Chinam is free. That means, afal pi sheyesh lahem l'tzadikim litlos b'maaseyim hatovim. Even though tzadikim could theoretically, they could ask for Hashem because listen, after all, I've done a lot of good deeds. Ein mevakshim me'es hamakom. They don't ask from Hashem. Hashem is the makom. Ela matnas chinam. They ask for a handout. They don't ask for in merit of what they've done. Because when you start asking in the merit of what you've done, so then we may even take a look at some of the things you haven't done. And the best way to plead with Hashem, is to just ask, please Hashem. And the truth of the matter is, we don't really have any merits that we deserve anything, because Hashem doesn't owe us anything. Hashem owes us absolutely nothing. Whatever we have, He's given us. See, that's not like, but I put on tefillin, therefore, but if without a head, you wouldn't have been able to put on tefillin. Without arms, you wouldn't be able to put on tefillin. Without money, you wouldn't be able to buy tefillin. There's actually a medrash that says, who has ever had a circumcision? Who circumcised their son before I gave them a son? I gave you the child. Well, you did me a favor and you circumcised them. I gave you the child to begin with. Without the child, you wouldn't have been doing the circumcision. So Moshe Rabbeinu, that's the first part of Rashi. Now, look at the next part of Rashi. Ba'esahi, la'achar shekavashti, fourth line of Rashi. La'achar shekavashti eretz Sichon ve'og, after I conquered the land of Sichon and Og, dimisi shemahutar haneder. I thought maybe the neder, the vow that Hashem made that I'm not going on, I thought maybe that neder was raised. Once I conquered the land of Sichon and Og, and then we turned it into the land of Israel by giving it to the 2.5 tribes, I said, now I'm in Israel. I'm standing in Israel because this is going to one day become Israel. So I thought, you know what, maybe Hashem has released me from the vow that I won't go into the land of Israel. But it wasn't to be. Lamor. Now this is a strange word. V'eschanan el Hashem ba'esahi lamor. Whenever it says in the Torah, Vayadaber Hashem al Moshe lamor, Hashem speaks to Moshe lamor. The word lamor means to say. So if it says Hashem spoke to Moshe lamor to say, what does that generally mean? Say it over to the Jewish people. Here, what is it? V'eschanan el Hashem ba'esahi. I pleaded to Hashem lamor, to say. I davened to Hashem to say. To say what? So Rashi points out, I daven to Hashem that He should respond to me, yes or no. Give me a yes, give me a no. Don't tell me, don't leave me without it in suspense. And sometimes in life, I ask you for a favor. Can you do it or you can't do it? Don't say I'll see, maybe. Tell me yes. I just say to my family all the time. I'm asking you to do something. Tell me you will do it, tell me you won't do it, but let me know where I stand right now. Lay more. But the commentaries say, and this is what I want to get to today, the lamor is indeed to tell it over to the Jewish people. Lamor is to say to the Jewish people. What are you going to say to the Jewish people? And the answer is that if you take a look at the word ve'eschanan, if anybody's using technology, please not while you're learning Torah. Use it somewhere else, but not in front of an open chumash. If we're learning Torah, we're learning. If not. Look at the word ve'eschanan. Vav, we're going to do some math, gentlemen. How much is a vav? 6. Aleph? 1. 6 and 1. How much are we at so far?
7.
You're on a roll, Shlomo. Tuf is 400. What are we up to? 407. Ches is 8. What are we up to?
415.
415. Nun is 50.
So 465.
465. And another nun is another 50, even though it's an end nun. How much? So what are we up to?
515.
515. The Medrash says that Moshe Rabbeinu davened 515 times. He pleaded with Hashem 515 times to go into the land of Israel. And then Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Ravlach, stop. And the Medrash says after 550 times, if he would have davened one more time, he would have gone in. He would have rescinded it. Hashem, no more. Stop. That means two things. First of all, it doesn't mean that Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't. It means he didn't. And this is something that we find when Hashem said you can't go into the land of Israel, it doesn't mean he couldn't. It means he didn't. It's a mistake people make. People think, hey, Moshe Rabbeinu, you're paralyzed, you can't get into the land of Israel. You have a command not to go into the land of Israel. You have a command not to daven again. When Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu to go up to the mountain to die, Moshe Rabbeinu could have stayed right where he was. It was a command. We have a mistaken idea over here of what it means you can't, because the word you can't can go two ways. You can't means you are unable to, or you can't means you're not allowed to. Hashem was saying to Moshe, you're not allowed to go into the land of Israel. I'm going in, I put my hand. No. You can't. You're not allowed to go into the land of Israel. That's a command that I want you to obey, and Moshe Rabbeinu obeys it because it's a command. Go up to the mountain, so you're going to die. Moshe Rabbeinu goes up the mountain because he's been commanded to go up to the mountain. So, the first thing we see over here, and this is something we don't speak about enough, is the potency of prayer. Tefillah, we daven. Jews are always davening. That's one of the things we do all the time. We always daven, and I've said many times, davening is always at an inconvenient time, because in the morning, I'm tired when I go to shul. In the afternoon, I'm hungry when I go to daven mincha, and at night, when I daven Marav, I'm hungry and tired. There's always a davening lurking. My wife actually said to me once, a frum woman who goes out with her husband, she could never relax. Because, you could be at a restaurant with your wife and all of a sudden there's a shtibel down, but I got to catch a mincha. And you run off for a mincha, run off for a marav, run off for one of that, which, by the way, this is the ace in the hole when you're out with your wife's family. You're out with your wife's family. I gotta catch a marav, then you disappear, you come back 2 days later, where were you? Well, Yalav the Ovo, it's what's going on. And off you go. You're always running off to catch there's always catching it. And it's true, wherever we go, we're davening. Have you flown? An El Al, the flying shul, right? El Al, there's a minyan, when you fly from LA to Israel, flying from Israel to America, you might not daven on the plane. If you daven Marav before you get on the plane, on a night flight, you wake up and you land in New York at 5, 6 in the morning, you haven't even time to daven Shacharis yet. And even if you fly to Los Angeles, it's not time to daven Shacharis yet. If you get coming in this direction, from LA to Israel, you could end up davening 4 times on the plane. If you didn't daven Marav before the plane took off, because you're flying into the light, so you got to daven. All of a sudden it's Shacharis, then it's going to be Mincha, and it's going to be Marav, and the light's coming at you very quickly. You could end up 4 times, at least 3 times, but sometimes davening 4 times on the plane, and you can't relax. And by the way, if you're ever on a plane flying in this direction, if it's nighttime and it starts turning into day, you got to get up and daven very quickly, because the time for saying Kriya Shema is measured parallel to where it is on the ground. So and it's coming at you very fast. So as soon as when I'm on the planes, as soon as I see the crack of dawn, or you hear the crack of dawn, if you can listen quietly, Shlomo, you can hear the crack of dawn. If you see, as soon as you see light rays coming in through the window, I get up and start putting on my tefillin. You get up and immediately start davening so you can catch your Kriya Shema. I went to Australia, and a guy, this is years ago, the guy printed out, by that point they already had a printout of the times where the plane is based on if the plane takes off on time, where the plane is parallel to the ground and what time to daven. It's very, but Jews are always davening. That's the first thing. What's the first thing you pack when you travel? From Jew, what's the first thing you pack? Tefillin. First thing is, and never, ever, 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 ever put it in your suitcase underneath. You always keep it in your handbags. Always keep it to fill in with you. Whatever else you put down there, put your wallet, put your child, I don't care what you put underneath of it, your tefillin stays with you. And it's the first thing you pack. You stop and think about it. The first thing I pack, now before I even pack my clothes, what have we got? I got my tefillin, I also got a sitter, and I've also got a sefer because I got to do some learning, and I got a can of tuna because, just in case I don't have my kosher, we travel, we don't travel light, as they say. And if it's Erev Pesach, you got a box of matzahs with you, right? And if you're any sort of Yeshivat Ohr, you got another box for your hat. And eventually they put you in the baggage, leave your stuff in your seat. But the first thing we do is we pack our tefillin. First thing we do is we're always davening. You're davening on the road, you're davening going on a hike. You go on a nature hike. Getting late, got to daven mincha. You see a bunch of Jews shaking at the side of the road, right? Up on the way to everywhere you go in the world, in an airport, there's always 10 Jews in a corner somewhere shaking. Right, because you got to get a mincha. In Newark Airport, there's always a minyan right before the 2:00 flight. There's always a mincha. There's a 2:00 in the afternoon flight from Newark to Israel, El Al. There's always a mincha. I've never missed a mincha there. I told you, my son and I were on the highway, and we got stuck. We were coming back from Tzfas, and we got stuck on the highway, and there was a traffic jam. We were going to daven in Yerushalayim. We had to go to comfort the mourner. in Tzfas, so we're driving back, and my son pulls up, we're driving off, and all of a sudden we're stuck, and there's a standstill, there's an accident. For an hour we didn't move. So I told my son, we're gonna have to, I told my son to pull off to the side of the road. So we didn't even pull off, we just got out of the car because there was no movement. We went off the side of the road to daven, and as we're standing there, a Hasidic guy walks over, he says, "Is there gonna be a minyan here?" This was an unscheduled stop, It wasn't a minion factory. The question is, first of all, when it comes to davening, take a look back. Keep your finger on the place here, on 958. Turn back to Parashat Toldos. If you look at Parashat Toldos, it's on the beginning of page 124. And this whole parsha down, Vayischanan, I pleaded with God. Lamor, you know what that Lamor is? Vayischanan al Hashem Lamor. To who is Moshe telling it? He's telling it to future generations of Jews. You should know that this is what we do, we daven. That's the Lamor. Lamor is saying it to the future generation. He's saying it to us. Vayischanan al Hashem ba'isahi. Vayischanan al Hashem ba'isahi. I pleaded to Hashem, Lamor, to say this. I am saying this, my pleading to Hashem, this is the message to future generations. That when a Jew, you need something, you daven. You need something, you daven. Now, look at the beginning of Parashat Toldos. Reuven, can I trouble you to put on the thing till it's 34 today. The calculation, by the way, is multiply by 1.8 and add 32. Then you'll get the real temperature. The real measurement. So you figure 34 times it's a 68 and 32 is 100, so it's slightly less than 100 degrees out. We're in the 90s. And it's going to be like this all week. So they got to fix the air conditioner. So look at the beginning. Ve'ela told us Avram and Yitzchak, Avram holidas Yitzchak. Look at the fourth line. Yitzchak gets married. And now look at the fourth line on page 124. Vayetar Yitzchak la Hashem lenochach ishto. Yitzchak davened to Hashem opposite his wife, or for the sake of his wife, depending on how you translate it. Ki akorahi, because she was barren. Vayeyaser lo Hashem. Hashem responds to him. Vatar Rivka ishto, and she becomes pregnant. So the beginning of pasuk, this fourth pasuk, it says Yitzchak davened to Hashem opposite his wife because she was barren. Now, if you were writing a paper, if you were writing the story of Yitzchak and Rivka, how would you write the story? What I would have written is, once upon a time there was a woman named Rivka. She was barren, so her husband Yitzchak davened, and then she had a child. She got pregnant. That's how I would write it. How does the Torah write? Once upon a time there was a man named Yitzchak who davened because his wife was barren. Do you hear a difference do you hear a difference there? Hear a difference over there? What's the subject of the story is obviously Rivka being barren. So it puts the side point first. Yitzchak davened. Why did he daven? Because his wife was barren. What's going on? And the answer is there's another statement that the Gemara says. The Gemara asks, why is it that the forefathers and the mothers, there were actually four mothers. There were only three fathers, but we call them forefathers. Why that is, it's confusing. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov are called the forefathers, but they're really three fathers. There were four mothers, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, the four mothers, but nobody ever says that. Yiddishkeit is a kind of confusing, it's a strange religion, boys. So you have the three mothers, the forefathers, and the four mothers, and the Gemara says, why were they barren? And the Gemara answers, Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu mis'avet l'tfilas shel tzadikim. Hashem desires the prayer of the righteous. Therefore, He withheld children from them, which is what they wanted more than anything else. They were wealthy, they were good-looking, they had everything. Yet, the thing they wanted most, which was children, Hashem withheld from them. And then eventually Hashem gives them children. Some people's reaction is, well, heck, why be a tzaddik? If that's what it costs you to be a tzaddik, you're a tzaddik. Hashem desires the tefillah of the tzaddikim, therefore He withholds the children from them. Why be a tzaddik? The answer to that, obviously, is because we don't really have a choice. We're meant to do as well as we can to become, and part of that is trying to become tzaddikim. A tzaddik means doing the right things, by the way. Somebody said to the Chafetz Chaim that he's a tzaddik. Chafetz Chaim said, I'm not a tzaddik. I only do what it says in Shulchan Aruch. All I do is what the halacha says. I'm not a tzaddik. I do whatever the halacha tells me to do. Well, that's a tzaddik. But what's going on here? What's going on? What's really going on here? Shem withholds the tefillah for what's going on? The answer is twofold. I have a friend who's a doctor. To become a doctor, you got to work really hard in high school and get really good grades and then get accepted to college, and get accepted to medical school. Then you got to work hard in medical school. Then you got to work hard in your internship, sleep deprivation, everything else that goes with it. And eventually, at the end of the road, you become a doctor. I was a phys ed major. I didn't have to work hard in high school. I didn't have to work hard at all in college. And I worked even less when I was teaching phys ed for that 1 year that I did it. What's the difference? So what's it? Why do what he did instead of what I did? The answer is he became a doctor. He became a doctor with all the prestige, the salary, and everything that goes with being a doctor. But he had to pay the price. He had to pay the price. You've heard of the Navy SEALs, right? So the Navy SEALs, which I was once at one point, that was a possible career choice for me. Problem is that I'm scared of heights. I'm a coward. I'm not strong, and a few other things that disqualify me. But I did read up on it. I read up on the Navy SEALs. Now, the Navy SEALs, this is a fact. They will sometimes start with 500 Marines, guys who are already Marines, which means these guys are tough. They'll take 500 guys, put them through the qualification course, and there are times when no one qualifies to become a Navy SEAL. And if they do qualify, 1 or 2 guys will qualify. Like they'll start with 500. Sometimes nobody gets accepted. Sometimes nobody makes it out of 5. And we're talking about Marines. We're talking about the toughest, roughest, ruggedest Marines. So what do? Like the first week is, for example, sleep deprivation. They start out with that. Now the example is mine, but it's not far from reality. They start out 500 guys. The first week is sleep deprivation. You get to sleep 45 minutes a night. By the third day of the week, 200 guys drop out. They're going nuts. I said, well, this is not for us. Okay, you dropped out. They put them in a room with a bed, a shower, a meal. You're out of the course. This next 300 guys go to the second week with his immersion in ice water on and off for 14 hours a day. By the middle of the week, another 200 guys drop out. Put them in a room, a shower, a meal, a bed. You're out of the course. The last 100 guys go to the last week, which is being dangled upside down on and off for 12 hours a day. By the middle of the week, 98 more guys drop out. 2 guys make it through. 2 guys. Now, somebody watching from the outside would say this is ridiculous. The first 200 guys dropped out of the course. They get a bed and a meal and a shower. And the other guys get ice water. They succeeded. They get ice water. What's going on here? And then they said drop out. They get dangled. Then they drop out. They become the Navy SEALs. The answer is that sometimes in life, to get to a higher level, you have to pay the price. You want to be a doctor, it's going to cost you. You want to be a doctor, you're going to have to work. And you're basically going to have to work your entire life. You want to get there, you're going to have to pay the price. I just read an interview, Mbappe, the soccer player from France, who's considered now one of the best players in the world. He said, I didn't have a normal childhood. When I was a teenager, I never got to go away with my friends and go to parties and clubs and have fun. I was on the soccer pitch. I think I told you there was a guy here at Ohr Somayach who told me he knew a girl. Guy told me this, that he at the university, one of the Florida universities, the University of Florida, he knew a girl who actually made it to the United States Olympic swim team. She never won anything, but she made the swim team. Between the ages of 9 and 17, there were 4 days that she wasn't in a pool. But she made the Olympic swim team. You want to be a doctor, you're going to pay the price. You want to be a Navy SEAL? At the end of the trail, you've got that nobody else has. Now, keeping that in mind, what's the ultimate good in life? What's the ultimate good in life? The ultimate good in life is God. which is why God in every language sounds like good. In Yiddish, it's Gott. German, it's gut. Why? There's an instinctive understanding where people will even say, when somebody suffers, people say, how can a good God let something like that happen? Nobody has ever said, how can a bad God let something good happen? It's always, how can a good God let something bad happen? Why? Well, who told you God's good? The answer is that we understand instinctively, and not only that, the Ramchal says, all we know about God, the essence of God, which even Moshe Rabbeinu, he says, let me see your essence. God says, no man can see me and live. So what do we know about the essence of God? We only know one thing. There's only one thing he's told us. That God is a tov umetiv. He's good and he bestows good. That's all we know about God. That's all he's told us. It's like a 4-year-old trying to understand a rocket, a jet engine. So you try to explain to a 4-year-old does not have the capability of understanding how a rocket engine works. By the way, there are people older than 4 who don't understand it either. I don't want to mention any names. But a 4-year-old can't possibly understand it. Doesn't mean it doesn't work. We were created with the limitation. God said, I'm creating you with the limit of understanding me. You won't understand me. You'll understand parts of me, but not my essence. There's only one thing we know, that God is tovu meitiv. He's good, and he bestows good. Now, if the source of good is right on that wall, let's say that wall is the source of ultimate good. So where's the best place to sit? As close to the wall as possible. You want to be in as close proximity with the good as possible. If God is the ultimate good, so the best thing for a human being to be as close to God as possible. How do we get close to God? Through prayer. So God comes along, he looks at Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. He says, wow, you fellas, you're really devoted. You've really passed some serious tests. You know what? You deserve the ultimate reward. I'm going to give you a chance for the ultimate reward. You know what the ultimate reward is? To be as close to me as possible. You know how I'm going to get you there? I'm going to withhold the thing you have earned the privilege. Now listen to this. This is strange. It's almost paradoxical. You've earned the privilege of me withholding what you want more than anything else. You know why? Because when I withhold it, you're going to daven. And you're going to daven in a way that you wouldn't have davened otherwise. And as a result of that davening, you're going to get close to me, which is the ultimate good. And then you're going to get what you asked for. So he withholds the children to bring out a certain part of tefillah that they wouldn't be able to access otherwise. And that brings you even closer to the ultimate good. And then, that's why the Gemara says Hashem withholds. Hashem desires the tefillah of the righteous, therefore he withholds children. Now what that means? What that means is that sometimes if we don't have something that we want, sometimes if we don't get what we want, and by the way, that's the Navy SEALs. You want to be a Navy SEAL? I'm going to give it to you. You've got the ultimate honor. You're a Navy SEAL. You know how I got it? Because I put you through so much that brought something out of you that wouldn't have been brought out otherwise. What that means is, there's a story, what do you call it, Rabbi, I think it was Rabbi Elimelech Führer. It was either Rabbi Führer or Rabbi Cholak. I don't know which one it was. They're both the heads of medical organizations here in Israel. So I think it might have been Rabbi Cholak. And whatever the case is, he was once at the Kaisel. He was at the Western Wall with a wealthy man. He was courting this wealthy man to get a donation for the organization. So they were standing at the Western Wall at the Kaisel, and they see a Jew crying his eyes out in prayer. A Jew's crying at the Western Wall. So Rabbi Cholak says to this wealthy man, listen, a Jew's crying, there's one of two reasons. Either he's got a health issue, he's got a financial issue. I'll tell you what, let's make a deal. If it's a health issue, I'm the head of the organization of Ezer Mitzion, I'll take care of the health issue. If it's a financial issue, you take care of it. Wealthy men, they like the game, they like the challenge. He says, okay. So Rabbi Cholak walks over, he says to the guy, listen, my name is Cholak, I'm head of Ezer Mitzion, you got a medical issue, well, can I help you out? He goes, no, Baruch Hashem, everybody in the family is basically healthy. Somebody's got it, there is an ingrown toenail. It's a very Jewish thing, and somebody's fetching about his lower back, but basically we're okay. So he turns to the wealthy man and says, you're up. Wealthy man puts his arm around the Jew, he says, here, blank check, just tell me how much you need. He goes, "Oh, Baruch Hashem, I don't have a whole lot, but we're basically okay. I don't need anything." So I talked to him, "So why are you crying?" He says, "I have 12 children." Now I understand. He goes, No, that's not why I'm crying. He says, every time we've had to marry off a child, marrying off children is not easy. You got to deal with a wedding, a chassan, it's a big package. Every time we've had to marry a child, I've come to the Kaisel and now davened to Hashem to help me out. And every time I've davened, he's helped us out. Last night, we married off our 12th and last child. I came here today just to say thank you. Crying in gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If the purpose of tefillah, it's not the only purpose, by the way. Sometimes if the purpose of having something withheld, it can be to bring us closer. It could also be because it's a punishment. It could also be that it's a test. But if it is in order to draw us close, the person theoretically could achieve that without the unpleasantness of having something withheld by saying thank you. That's why I always recommend in davening, when you daven Shemona Esrei every day, you say, Modim anachnu lach, we thank you, Hashem. At that moment, stop. Modim anachnu lach. Stop at that moment and just think to yourself, what have I got to thank Hashem for? My family, my health, my parnasa, thank Hashem for whatever you got. Just think it. Just think it right there. I appreciate this, I appreciate that, I appreciate that, thank you very much. Think what we have to thank Hashem for. That's the bond. And that's what we're put in this world for. To acknowledge HaKadosh Baruch Hu's goodness. That's what we're put here for. So when the Torah says, Ve'ela vayetar Yitzchak Hashem lenoch achishto ka'akorahi. Now the question is not, hey, you put the side point ahead of the main. What's the subject of the story? Is the subject of the story that Rivka was barren? Or the subject of the story is that Yitzchak davened? The story is about Yitzchak's davening. Yitzchak davened to Hashem. Why did he daven to Hashem? Side point. Because his wife was barren. If it wouldn't have been that, it would have been a health issue. If it wouldn't have been that, it would have been for Parnasa. But the subject is the davening. And therefore it puts it, Yitzchak. Why? Because when we daven, one of the mistakes we make is many people think davening is to get stuff. That's not that. We davening because davening is an ends in and of itself. It's not the means to the ends. The davening is the ends. What all the other things in life surrounding it are the means to the ends. The ends is the davening. Completely different approach. Completely different look at davening. Number one. Completely different look at davening. And people always ask, are we going to get what we want? So first of all, why does davening work? Why does it work? Let's say we need something. People always ask, how does davening work? Hashem knows what I need before I daven. Hashem knows what I need before I daven. The answer to that, there are many different ways to understand. Well, when I daven, I become a different person, and maybe today I don't deserve it, but if I daven for a year, I become a different person from the davening, and that new person now deserves it. That's the standard approach to davening. But I think I once showed you, and I think that this is of all the explanations I ever heard, this is the best explanation I heard for how davening works. Turn back for a second to Parshas Bereshis now, on page 10. So it says on page 10, the sixth line from the top, Eila toldos hashamayim v'aretz, this is the products, he writes, of the heavens and the earth, behiboram, when they were created, biyom asos Hashem Elokim eretz yisrael, the day that Hashem made the earth and the heavens. V'chol siach hasoda tiram yeh ba'aretz, v'chol esev hasoda terem yitzmach. There was no vegetation had not sprouted. Why hadn't the vegetation sprouted? Ki lohim tir Hashem Elokim al haaretz, because God didn't bring down rain. It was there on the opening of the earth, but it didn't grow because there was no rain. Why was there no rain? There's no man to work the earth. So God didn't make it rain, so it didn't grow. Now take a look at Rashi. You have to see the Rashi inside. It's the right column of Rashi, 3 lines from the bottom, on page 10. Right column of Rashi, 3 lines from the bottom. Ki lo himtir. Hashem didn't make it rain. And Rashi says, Umatam. Rashi's quoting the Medrash, obviously. Umatam lo himtir. And why didn't Hashem make it rain? I mean, it would have been obviously they didn't grow because Hashem didn't make it rain, so make it rain. What's the problem? And why didn't Hashem make it rain? Lefisha adam ayin lavod es adama. Because there was no man there to work the earth. Ve'ein makir betovasan shel gibishami. And there's nobody to recognize the benefit of the rain. Why is it raining? So we should recognize the benefit. Now here's the kicker, gentlemen. Uksheba adam v'yada shehed tzorech la'olam. When Adam came and he realized that it's needed, you got to have rain. He spalal aleihem, he davened. The yardu, and the rain came down. V'tzamchu ha'ilonos v'adishay. Why did it rain? Because he davened. Why did the plants grow? What? Why did the plants grow? He davened brought the rain. Because it rained. So your entire life you've watered the grass. I don't know, in Toronto maybe you put snow on the grass. I don't know how it works there. But you water the grass to make the grass grow. Did you ever water your lawn? Did you ever go out there and hose it or whatever you put out there? Did you ever stop and say to yourself, gee, why does this work? I wonder how this works. Never did it. You just got it done. And if you're working for somebody that just want to get paid, you don't care how it works, as long as it works. You water it and it grows. You water it and it grows. That's why people think I don't take a lot of showers, because it's not growing, right? But you water it and it grows. So I don't understand. Well, they're 9 days. Yeah. But you water it and it grows. Do you ever ask yourself, hey, how come the water makes it grow? Never ask yourself, why? You know why you never ask yourself? Because you understand that's how it works. Okay, they got all sorts of biological explanations for it. At the end of the day, water makes things grow. Where was that determined? Where did that happen, that water makes things grow? At creation. It was created that way. Hashem could have created marshmallow fluff to make things grow.
It does.
Fluffernutters. Took 4 of them to school every day in high school. Right? 4 sandwiches, fluffernutters, right? They're delicious. And if you put on jelly also with the Parashat fluff and the peanut butter, then you are high as a kite. That is a sugar rush like nobody's business. Then the teacher wonders why we're not sitting still in geometry class. Right? So you put marshmallow fluff. It could have been, as I made water. Did you wonder why? Why does water make it grow? No, that's the way it is. Why? Because that's how God created the world. And why does water come down? Because Adam prayed. Why does the prayer make the water come down? Because. How's that? How's that for an explanation of how tefillah works? Because it works. For the same reason that water makes it grow, tefillah makes water come down. That means it was created at the beginning of the world. Man, daven, stuff. It works. Why does it work? Because it works. There are other explanations, philosophia. There are many, many wonderful explanations. At the end of the day, it was at the time of creation. You didn't wonder about water. You didn't wonder about trees. You didn't wonder about zebras. Hey, why are the zebras striped? Why aren't the aardvarks striped? That always bothered me. Every time you see an aardvark, how come the aardvark's not striped? How come a llama isn't the one with the teeth that rips apart deers or zebras? You ever wonder about that? No, I'll tell you the truth, I never wondered about that. That's the way it is. That's the way it is. That's the way it is. That's why tefillah works. Tefillah works because it works. That's the best explanation. And when we daven, now there's a question that everybody asks. This is, at the end of the day, this is what the bottom line is. You know the story about the woman in the parking lot? And she's driving around this parking lot looking for a parking space. And she can't find a parking space. There's no parking. She's driving around 20 minutes. All of a sudden, a truck pulled. She said, please, Lord, give me a parking space. And all of a sudden, right in front of her, a truck pulls out. and opens this gaping parking space for her. And she looks at me and says, never mind, I just got one. No, it works or doesn't work. Got to recognize it. A guy davens for parnasa. What are you expecting? Doing! A big sack of coins going to fall right. Please Hashem, I need parnasa. Cha-ching! No, then a week later, he happens to be in the mikvah on Erev Shabbos, and he's talking to a guy who says, oh, by the way, my brother-in-law's got an accounting firm. He's looking for a new accountant. And you happen to have a brother who's unemployed who's an accountant. Now you made the shit up, and he goes and works in that firm. Does davening work or does it work? How did you expect it to happen? So Hashem disguises a lot of things within nature. You know, in Israel, there was once, this is unbelievable, there was once a drought in Israel, about 5 years of drought. And they hadn't rained. There were 5 years of drought, and the Kinneret level, the water is the main body of water, the Kinneret level had dropped down. It was 10 centimeters above the red line. There's a red line, the red line in the Kinneret, which is, they even had the Minister of Agriculture on a radio broadcast here in Israel, who they said to him, what's going to happen if the Kinneret hits the red line? So he said, without batting an eyelash, it's not a problem. We will erase the red line and draw it lower. This is Israel. They're the Minister of Agriculture in what is theoretically a first world country. And when you live here long enough and you hear that, you just kind of go, oh, okay. No. You just get used to that sort of thing. So there was a drought. So they had a prayer session at the Kaisel. About 40,000 people went to the Kaisel. They davened. And then it started raining. It was either that afternoon or the next morning. It started raining. And it started raining and raining and raining. The Ayalon Highway in Tel Aviv flooded. That's how much rain there was. So somebody saw there were two secular Jews standing on a bridge overlooking the Ayalon Highway, the flooded Ayalon Highway. And somebody heard one of the guys said to the other one, the Haredim in there davening. Look what they did. I always tell people, yeah, you know what? We should believe in the power of tefillah like they do. We should believe. And when my oldest daughter started shidduchim, the shidduch process. So once one kid gets into, the whole house is shidduchim. It's all the time people talk about shidduchim. They call it that. You're sitting at the table, please pass the shidduchim. You know? So my youngest daughters were, one was 10 and one was 7. And the 7-year-old at the time, she kept hearing shidduchim. She kept hearing people talk about shidduchim. So finally one day she says, and this is a conversation, I'll tell you in English, there's two little girls talking in Hebrew. So she says, shidduchim. What is shidduchim anyway? So the 10-year-old she looks at her and says, you don't know what shidduchim is? Shidduchim is you daven to Hashem and then you get married. So I said, some adults need to hear this. As a 10-year-old, you daven to Hashem and you get married. That's all it is. It's not. It is. It is. That's what the Torah is telling us. The Torah is telling us that Moshe Rabbeinu, Lamor, say to the Jewish people, tell them what davening is. Tell them what davening is. That's what the Lamor is. Okay, we'll continue this tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem. Call it the essence. A reminder that after this week there's going to be a 3-week break. Where the next year is going to. After this week, Wednesday is going to be last year, and then there's going to be vacation. The next year is going to be Parashat Kiseitze, Sunday of Parashat Kiseitze.